So this is the beginning of measurement. The measurement unit covers 3 different types of measurement. There is the measurement of length, how long something is. This can also include height or width as well. Length is really when you are using a flat surface of some kind and measuring a flat surface from one point to another. Weight or mass, how heavy is something, how much gravitational pull pretty much does it have. And then the last is capacity or volume. Not talking about how loud your headphones are. When we're talking about volume here, we're talking about how much space does something take up in a liquid. So when you put a liquid into a cup, how much space does that take up? That's your volume. So down here at the bottom, you have a word bank. Normally when I'm teaching this in class, where this is a big discussion, we're talking about things that you could be using as far as tools and things like that. I want to say that there are lots more words that can be used in these blanks than what's in your word bank down below. And again, that's another discussion we have. Unfortunately, I don't have you guys here to have those discussions, so I'm just going to use the word banks down below. Hopefully, maybe you can have those discussions with your parents about the different types of measurement. Maybe practice different measurements. You can be baking or maybe making something, building something, that kind of thing. Got to use that measurement for any of that. So the first thing that I want to talk about is we've got these 2 different types of measurement, of customary and metric. These are different units that you can use. Think about on a ruler how you can have inches on one side and centimeters on the other. Well, inches is the customary unit, and if you think they're both very close to one another as well. Sometimes students ask me, why do we have both of these? Well, one of them is customary, one of them is metric. And the best way that I can explain for having 2 ways to measure everything is that the United States likes to be different. The United States uses the customary system. Almost everywhere else in the world uses the metric system. I don't have an answer for you. Everybody asks me why. Metric system is so much easier to understand. I'm sorry. But just so you know, there are those 2 different units, and we're going to separate these words based on length, weight, and volume, and these different units. So I think the best way to kind of go about this would, let's start with just length, okay? And when we go through length, we're going to look for words that would represent the units of length. Inches. Yeah, inches definitely would, and inches is a customary unit. So I'm going to write inches in this box here. And then I'm going to cross it out because I don't like distractors. Feet. Yes, feet is also a unit of length, not the feet that stink that go in your shoes. Yards, also a unit of length. And miles. Now notice inches is usually very small. That's on a ruler, right? It's typically like a paperclip size. Feet, well, that's a whole ruler. Yards, well, that's 3 rulers. Miles, well, miles, we're talking about length. That's like when we're driving or when we're walking. It's about a 15-minute walk, okay? So this is going from smaller to bigger. So I'm going to write over here on the side that this is going smaller to bigger. Now I have centimeters. Well, centimeters is on the other side of my ruler. I know it's length, but here now we're getting to the metric system. So this is centimeters. A meter is also length of the metric system. And notice both of them have the base word meter in there. Now, here's where we come up to a discussion. Oh, no, I do have it here. Millimeter. Now, the nice thing with the metric system is based on base words, and they have kind of a pattern to their conversion, and we'll talk about that in the conversion videos. But the pattern is that they have prefixes. So here's centi. This is a prefix of meter. That's a little bit smaller than your meter. Here I have millimeter. Well, milli is even smaller than centi, so I'm going to put it up here. Throw us off putting it out of order. Millimeter. Now, I can also go bigger, and I can put a bigger prefix on there, and I can have a kilometer. And these are very similar to these units as well. Millimeters are very, 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 very small, but centimeters are very similar to inches. Feet. We don't have one that's similar to feet, but yards are very similar to meters. And miles are very similar to kilometers or kilometers. You might hear them said either way, kilometers or kilometers. So again, we're going smaller to bigger. A lot of these units are very similar to one another. They can be used interchangeably. You can use inches or centimeters if I wanted to measure this pen, for instance. I could use yards or meters if I wanted to measure the length of a door, or how far my airplane went. We did an airplane experiment early in the year, making paper airplanes. I could use kilometers or miles if I wanted to measure the how far the school is from my house, or how far the pizza place is, something like that. It's just a different unit. So those are pretty similar units to one another. These are just different measuring systems. Now we're going to go into weight. Again, we'll start with customary. And in the customary system, we have ounces, and pounds. And I skipped tons because tons is bigger than pounds. So then we have tons. And you can think of this, again, from smaller to larger. I was trying to get them in order here. Ounces are super, super small. Pounds is like what we measure ourselves. Tons would be something like if I was measuring a car or an elephant or something like that. Now, the metric system also measures weight, but they have a similar pattern to when they have length. Their weight system, their base word is grams. So I'm going to put grams in the middle because I've got smaller and bigger grams. And now the same prefixes would apply. So if I'm talking little weight, something that has not a lot of weight at all, like a paper clip, I would have a milligram. Talking a little bit more weight, but not quite as much as a gram would be, we're talking a centigram. gram. Now, to be honest with you, I don't know how often this is used. I'm not very familiar with it myself, but it does definitely follow that pattern. If we continue to weigh something heavier, like an elephant, we could have a kilogram. And I apologize, there's no space in between there. It should be just one word, kilogram. So a kilogram, though what's different about the different units here, a milligram, definitely very, 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 very small. Gram, we're talking about something like a pen weight or a piece of paper, maybe your phone, something like that. Kilogram, we're talking about anything larger. So here we're talking about, you would weigh yourself in kilograms, but you'd also weigh your elephant or your car or something really heavy in kilograms as well. Okay, so again, you've got smaller to larger, very similar to one another, the different systems, but a little bit different. So kilogram, I'm going to cross that off. Now our capacity, this is talking about our liquid volume. Notice how this box here is blacked out. The reason this is blocked out here is because both, well, pretty much everywhere in the world, they use the same system for volume. So we're just going to keep that in customary here. And again, we will go from smallest to largest with what they have listed here. So the smallest here would be your fluid ounces. Notice that this is fluid ounces. This is not the same thing as your weight ounces. It just happens to have the same name. One of those things that's really good at confusing kids, but totally different. Fluid ounces and ounces, totally different. So we've got fluid ounces, and then we've got cups. And we have pints. It's not on here, but we also have quarts. And then we have gallons. And again, I kept that from going smallest to largest, so you can have that listed appropriately. So now we're going to go down to tools. And now I'll take a look at these different tools, and I want to think about, well, when would I use this tool? Would I use it to measure length of something, weight of something, or capacity, volume of something? First one is a ruler. Well, I see a picture of a ruler, so ruler I would use to measure length. A yardstick. Well, a yardstick is just a really big ruler, so that's also going to be for length. It's not on this paper, but they also do make meter sticks as well. Meter sticks, and you could put that under length also if you'd like to. As a matter of fact, oh, it is here. Meter stick. Next is a scale. It's a scale. Oh, here's a scale. I also might see a scale at the grocery store. I could see a scale. My mom, when she gets fruits or vegetables, might put them on the scale to see how much they weigh. I've also seen a balance scale where I have two items and I want them to balance to equal one another. I also might have a triple beam balance scale. We use those early in the year where I have to kind of knock over the little weights to find out how much an item might weigh. So a scale is measuring the weight of something. A measuring cup, oh, I use this a lot when I'm cooking. A measuring cup is not going to measure length. Definitely not going to measure weight. That's a cup. That's going to be measuring capacity or volume. So measuring cup. Tape measure. Tape measure is one of those things that you pull out and gets really, really long and you would measure something, that's like a really long ruler or a yardstick. That's going to be used to measure length. So tape measure. I'm running out of room. I'll write it below though. A balance. Oh, I had mentioned that before. Those are those two things where we want to make sure that they're even with one another. That's a scale. And I added the word scale because it is typically referred to as a balance scale. A measuring spoon. Well, a measuring cup is over here. I know I use the cups to measure volume. Well, the spoons also measure volume as well. They just use a little bit smaller. I might have teaspoons or tablespoons, those things. Those are your measuring spoons. So that's going to go over here. A medicine cup. I wonder what that is. Well, I see cup over here. And I know that medicine is usually a liquid. At least when I was a kid it was. That's when I used the medicine cup. And liquids, well that's a volume. So medicine cup would go here. Okay, and there are other tools that we might be able to use for length, weight, or capacity, but you want to make sure that you are familiar with at least these ones here. Also, familiarize yourself with what's smaller to what's bigger, because in this section where you're practicing, you're going to take a look at an item and estimate, well, what would be the best unit to use? So for instance, if I was going to measure, I don't have anything close by, but if I was going to measure the weight of this pen, would I use tons? No, this is nowhere near even 1 ton. That would not be appropriate. Would I use pounds? No, same thing. It's not even near a pound. It wouldn't be appropriate. But ounces certainly would be. What about in the metric system? What would I use there? Milligrams I might be able to use, but that's usually something very, 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 very small. I'd really use grams for this pen. So if I was going to weigh this pen, I would use ounces in the customary, or if I could only use metric, I would use grams. So that's what you're going to be doing in this practice sheets is looking at items and estimating what is the appropriate unit to be using, or the appropriate estimation of its weight.